over, now welcome to First Mint. Looking for NFT content? Look no further, cause this is it. From Top Shot to blockchain, they got the data chops, analysis, and pack drops. The show's equator hot. LG and Phil D, the best amongst others. Best brothers that happen to ball since the Ball Brothers. So settle in, cause it's time for the best show. Ayo Quad, who we reppin'? First Mint. Let's go.
Phil D joining us from an unknown location, totally anonymous today, no video, recording as the picture of a pumpkin. Citrouille. Phil D, did you catch any of the news today? The Roham bombshell dropping from the newspaper The Block about his lavish lifestyle. Did you catch any of the news?
So for the longest time, LG, when I know there's a big drop, when I know there's a big event, when I know something big is happening, I make sure that day I am sitting on my couch, whether I'm working, I'm remotely or not. I make sure I'm in a place where I have access to be doing no actual work all day and be in the Discords, on Twitter, on anywhere, following whatever's going on. Okay, today was not one of those days, so I kind of had to rely on what was being sent to me. And the first message I got was earlier today from you with a link to that article, and I'm just like, man, I am so busy right now. I'll read it later, but just the headline alone, I was like, holy shit, what is going on here? Right? So I said, well, can you kind of tell me what's in here? Because I really don't have time. And if I open this, I'm kind of sitting right beside my boss. I actually won't take my ass off of it the entire day, and I'll probably go crazy and have to go in the Discords and go nuts and go on social media. So, but it actually hasn't stopped coming in all day.
No. So hold on, wait. Before we actually read it, do you sit right beside your boss?
So he sits a couple seats over, and I know it's not the subject today, but I kind of started some chaos this morning when we got an email from the big boss saying quick meeting. I hate those things. I hate when someone sends a request for a quick meeting. It lasts 10 minutes. It's never good. It's always something bad. And but it's not for like 6 hours. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Usually they send those out, 20 minutes before they want to do it. This one came out at like 8 a.m. and the meeting wasn't until 2 p.m. I'm like, oh man, here we go. We're going to be speculating all day. So I had my own chaos going. Our boss was late today, and I told a couple of my colleagues, what if he got fired? Some lady actually started crying. I'm not joking. I'm like, no, I didn't say he got fired. I'm saying, where is he? Why isn't he here right now? Are we being told he's gone? And she's like, he's my favorite boss ever. I'm like, oh my God, what did I just start? Nice. So no, listen, it was completely ridiculous. But anyways,
let me tell you who a boss that is apparently not many people's favorite boss. And as per this article, that boss is Roham. So I'm going to recap it for you, Phil, because maybe you haven't had a chance to read it, or maybe people listening did not catch wind of this. So the article, the title on The Block, which is like a normal crypto publication like Decrypt or whatever else. The title of the article is NBA Top Shot CEO, Decadent Lifestyle, Public Shaming Led to Toxic Culture as Dapper Flails. And the quick take under there, because I was like a little summary, is 3 bullet points. I'll read them to you. Dapper Labs CEO and co-founder Roham Garagazlu's extravagant spending and habit of bullying employees is said to have resulted in high employee turnover as the company struggled in a bear market. While leading the startup once valued at $7.6 billion, Garagazlu traveled on private jets and stayed in luxurious accommodations that cost tens of thousands of dollars per night. The company laid off 22% of staff in November before laying off another 20% more last week. And then to summarize the rest of the article, because those are just kind of like the hot takes at the start, it kind of details what Top Shot is, how much money they raised, how much money they've made approximately, highlights the investors like Michael Jordan, Kevin Durant, Will Smith. It says that the company's valued around still, or maybe not, I don't know, at $7.6 billion, highlights the layoffs, and then also kind of shows off the decline of the secondary volume on Top Shot from kind of like from January 2022 to now. And then it goes into kind of like the nitty or grittier stuff, right? And they don't name names, but they're saying that this comes from ex-employees, people that recently left or were let go. Again, we don't know who that is. 20 and then 22% is a lot of people at Dapper, a couple hundred people. So it could have been anybody really. But basically what it describes is like a culture basically of people being afraid of Roham. There's a quote in there that says the high turnover fostered a stressful work environment where people were terrified of crossing the CEO, according to everyone the block spoke to. And then there are parts that the second half of the article details Roham's lifestyle. So outside of Dapper's not doing well and people are scared of Roham as a CEO, it then also talks about what how he spends his money, or spends what they call apparently is billed as marketing expenses internally, that he spends 60 to 100K on private flights, up to 300 grand a month on mansions to rent in Beverly Hills, 30K a night on hotels, and that he throws like really crazy parties, like back in February 2022, where he threw a New York Fashion Week party with Drake and Bieber attending. And again, this coming from ex-employees saying that Roham's behavior started to change around when Top Shot boomed, and you know, he got famous from that, and Top Shot kind of took over the NFT world, and that's when this kind of stuff started.
Okay, well, listen, all right, it's a lot to unpack, but it's also not, and I don't want to just come on here and say what people want to hear, because that's just not my style. But I'll be honest with you, and I've had experiences with this firsthand, and I will say this, and I know this actually, this happened to me recently. It even happens with, I have so much to say, I don't even know where I want to start, but when you kind of read reviews about a hotel, say, okay, you'll have good ones in there, but you'll also find bad ones. And then if you'd stay at a hotel that had all these bad ones, which I recently didn't have too many bad ones, but I stayed, I didn't really see any of the things that were outlined as bad. So my point is that, first and foremost, who wrote this article? That's what I'm not up to date with.
It's just one of the Blocks reporters. I checked him out on Twitter. Like he mainly just writes about like NFTs, metaverse, sports gaming, all that kind of stuff. So it didn't look to me like somebody with like an agenda or anything like that. It just seemed like probably something that after last week's like lawsuit and layoffs that they started to think about and started digging on. It's probably usually when there's like news, like a lawsuit, Phil, or layoffs, like reporters will reach out to different people. Even after last week, I had a few different people reach out to me to come on their podcast or ask for comment. So it's not uncommon, let's say after last week's news, for people like this to go and like message ex-employees, be like, hey, I'd love to learn a little bit more what it was like to work there, what's going on, and that for them to kind of like birth something like this. But also, Phil, like I understand what I agree with you. Like nothing in here is bad. I don't think that this is, well, okay, I'm not going to say anything in here is bad. A toxic work culture is terrible. Nobody wants to see that. Not super uncommon in tech, unfortunately. But again, not necessarily excusable for that reason. In terms of the expenses, I don't know. That's a bit of a strange thing, right? Because obviously that's not proper marketing, but it's not uncommon for tech CEOs to throw that kind of money around, whether it should be like, Dapper's money or Roham's money.
Seriously.
What's that? What?
Hello, he's the CEO of a company. You're telling me other CEOs don't do this? When I read that, I'm sorry, I'm going to say, LG, when I read that, I'm like, hold on. Everything you're reading to me right now, or that I'm reading, is typical CEO behavior in a way, okay? Top Shot did blow up when everything started, to the point where if I put myself in those shoes, I don't think, with all the money that came in and all the success that Dapper Labs had early, I really don't think I'm still riding my bike to the convenience store or whatnot, right? I'm probably looking at cars like Lambos and stuff. I'll be like, you know what? Now's the time, right? So that part of it, I don't see wrong. Like you said, a toxic work culture is one thing. But to me, the red flags come out a little bit where this is kind of coming out of nowhere, you know, and everyone who jumps on board with this thing is probably someone who no longer works with the company, or who was laid off, or who decided to move on for whatever reason. Every single company has unhappy employees. And that's what I was leading to before. We once had this at work where I went on to, we had an employee that was fired from our company. And about a few months later on Google reviews, this crazy like story came out on one of the Google, but it was naming people at the company saying that they do this and they do. And I know that that's not true. So I know at the same time that when people leave companies, they're upset and they're looking to get back at certain people. And maybe there are things they didn't like, but I have such a hard time seeing Roham as that guy. I have a hard, I don't know him. I do not know him personally. I've never even talked to him. I follow him on Twitter. He follows me on Twitter. We've had interactions in DMs very briefly, nothing crazy, and on Twitter and on social media. And you've actually interviewed him one-on-one, which you've had a much closer connection.
I spent almost 2 hours with Roham pretty much alone. Like the assistant was there, but when we recorded for First Mint Fest, and we shot live actually. This is back in August 2021. If you guys remember First Mint Fest, our event, our digital only event, it started with a live interview between me and Roham, which again at the time was shocking because it had still been pandemic, so people hadn't really been together yet, especially in like streams or anything. So and I asked him to come early just so we could get set up for tech, and he showed up fucking early. Like we were starting at noon, and I was like, try and come half an hour early, and he showed up at like 11. So we kind of sat in this like weird waiting area of a studio like together for a while and like made super awkward chit chat. But it was good. Like he seemed nice to me. Also remember back in those days when Roham would appear a lot on streams, like we used to joke about how he was freaking stoned as hell because he always looked like really ripped. And honestly, that's kind of the impression I got from him. He didn't look baked, but he seemed very chill. He was very polite to me. Obviously, you know, I fit some kind of role of like not reporter, but some kind of media content. So I wouldn't expect him to, you know, immediately show his worst behavior in that position. But again, that was almost 2 years ago. So it's very limited experience that I have with him. Listen, people can also be, it's also possible for people to be really nice on the outside, facing the media, doing interviews, all that kind of stuff. And then to be incredibly demanding bosses. So I think, I don't know, it's really hard to say, you know, what exactly that is. Obviously you've got, you know, two different forces at play there where one, totally. Does this kind of stuff seem believable in terms of like toxic work culture? Like, yes, because recently we've seen people leave voluntarily, like we talked about 2 days ago. Great people that we love a lot, like Dave Feldman and AJ Curry, right? They were leading NFL all day. They left on their own, so that's not a good sign, right? So that's what gives some of this truth. But at the same time, like you're pointing out that it's like, hey man, like when you lay off 200 people, some of them are not going to be happy about that, and you know, even anybody from the executive team all the way down to, you know, the intern can give anonymous comments to the press. So I think I think there's probably a balance there in terms of what that is. I do find it funny that this is paired in with lavish lifestyle, because when you actually break it down, like they're kind of unrelated, right? It's like this piece is like Dapper's doing poorly, Roham's an asshole. Also, he spends a lot of money on mansions, right? And I think that's like, you know, it's clearly like designed as a bit of a hit piece and eyeball grabber. So I don't know. At the same time, you know, we've spent hours documenting bad decisions from the Dapper side in terms of supply and taking more money from the economy, from the community, that kind of stuff. So this isn't, you know, I think that this, unfortunately for the community, you know, is not super shocking to hear whether it's true or not, right? So it's a little bit of a gray zone for sure.
I agree, but you know, listen, I'm the first to say what Dapper's been doing for a while now has been greedy as hell. Okay, trying to take them as much away from people as they can. They keep doing all these pack drops, and they're still doing it for prices that are completely ridiculous. Obviously, I understand this is the business side of it, and you need to make money. But it's been outrageous for a long time how they kind of run their business like that. But hey, listen, we're still there. A lot of us still buy their products, and we're still back it. But at the end of the day, I just don't see Roham being like that. I don't, like, from the things I've seen, and obviously what you see on the surface is we've learned this is not how people really are behind the scenes. But when you're going to make sort of accusations like this, and you're going to come out and say these, you know, sort of slanderous things like this, you almost have to have receipts. Like, where was Roham doing this? Where was he talking to people like this?
So they do point it out in the article. They say that in Zoom meetings he would yell at people and bully them, and then also in Slack he would like call them out in front of the whole company.
So show us the receipts. That's what I'm saying, though, right? It's really hard to come out though, but seriously, because anybody can say anything. Oh, he used to always, you know, yell at me in emails or talk down to me in emails. If I say that at work, then guess what? I should have to show it. Right? Show me that that's true. I want to see some proof here. Right? I would also be interested to hear, you know, I wonder if somebody's going to come out on the Dapper side and kind of refute this, right? And someone like a Jacob or something, and say, you know what? No, all my experiences, this is not true. That'll be really interesting to see if anyone puts their back behind Roham, because if it is truly a toxic culture, the silence will be all you need to know from current Dapper Labs employees.
So I'm seeing here and there that Roham was asked for comment and declined to comment anything, which I don't know what that means. I didn't see that in the article, but I'm seeing people whisper about that. So that's and also A16Z, which is one of the larger investors in Dapper, also declined comment. But at the same time, declined comment isn't really anything. It's like that's usually like a reporter 5 minutes before they publish the piece to be like, "I'm publishing this. Do you have any comment?" And then if they don't hear back, they'll be like, "They never responded." So it's not exactly accurate. But Phil, let's go to maybe not receipts, but some of the fuel that's being thrown on the fire here, where some of the tweets from former employees that came out this morning, notably
spicy. I
Jayne
love those.
who was the GM of NBA Top Shot, was appointed as she was the VP of Growth at the start of 2022. In May 2021, she became the GM of NBA Top Shot, which we talked about the other day on the pod. And then a week before the NBA season, took a leave of absence for mental health. Just a few weeks before Dapper laid off a bunch of people. Now, somewhere it's been made official that she is no longer the GM of NBA Top Shot or involved with Dapper Labs. I actually follow her on LinkedIn, and last week she posted a 9-minute video ranting about marketing in Web3. That is kind of long and painful to watch, honestly, because just her kind of filming a video diary, but talking about how certain people have certain opinions of how it should work, and that's not what she thinks, and blah, blah, blah. Clearly, subtweeting or throwing shade at certain people. But today on Twitter, she tweeted a few different times, and I'm going to pull them up right here for anybody who's watching live, but I will also read them to you, so don't feel like you have to be watching the video. But basically, she wrote, actually, Carrie Ohm, who used to do the videos for NBA Top Shot, who used to do those like street videos announcing challenges, wrote something nasty of her own and has since deleted it. It was something along the lines of, I don't know, what goes around comes around or something like that. And Jayne quote tweeted it, writing, "Karma's a bitch, isn't she?" with a gif of Angelina
it's like
Jolie
Cruella DeVille or something.
No, she's like the evil witch from something, isn't she? From Snow White. Who's the evil witch in Snow White? Evil witch.
I thought that was Cruella DeVille. No,
no, that's Cruella DeVille's is from 101 Dalmatians, man.
I don't remember it. I saw it.
Angelina Jolie,
or is that still
evil
up there?
Queen, is Maleficent. Anyway, so it's a gif of Angelina Jolie smiling in her devilish look from Maleficent. And then 5 minutes later, and this is about half an hour after the article came out, so just as the news was breaking, she also posted a different post saying, "The ego is a destructive force when it is allowed to rule a person's life." And then it's a gif of the mom from the Addams Family, and it's her sipping a cup of tea with the caption there being "witnessing karma like ... So Jayne clearly holding something very strongly against Roham and very happy to see him, I guess in her eyes, like go down or something like that. I don't know. It's like I guess she's happy that people know he flies on private jets and that he's a mean boss. I don't know. I don't know what she's trying to achieve there.
This is what I didn't understand, is that what exactly was exposed that everyone's so shocked about, that these tweets came out? Like, what's the karma? Karma's a bitch, but what's the karma? What's the karma here?
Yeah.
That we were told that he lives a lavish lifestyle as a CEO of Dapper Labs. I mean, hold on a second. What are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Listen, here's one other thing, LG, is that
of course,
the main complaint I've seen everywhere today, and the main gripe that I've seen people have, is that, oh my God, Top Shot is where it is because Roham's been spending all the marketing money on, the lavish lifestyle. But let's be honest, right now, what could Top Shot do, no matter how much they would spend right now? What could they do that would change things for Top Shot? Let's be honest. If they had millions and millions and millions of dollars to spend, and what's the marketing campaign that would change the world? I just don't see it. I don't think there's anything that could do. It's just the market we live in, to the point where I don't think that matters. I don't think it doesn't matter where the money went at this point. Okay, the marketing, I thought they did a decent job, whether we saw it or not, with a lot of the stuff they did. But I don't think that any amount of money of marketing could kind of change the state of Top Shot right now, or a lot of NFTs, to be honest with you, right? So if that's what people are mad about, because when I saw, like I said, I haven't been following all day, just briefly. I like chaos, so I've been posting all these emojis in Discords of like Jerry and oh my God, and I even went in the Top Shot Discord and I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus Christ, or oh my God, brutal, right? But I didn't even know what I was talking about, just to see what people would say.
Let's meet the
And I
guy.
yeah. But then I'm like, when I saw that one tweet by not Janie, who was the other one? Was it Carrie?
Carrie,
Yeah, Carrie.
who's in
When I
Toronto.
saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, so something in that article was exposed. Like some big
Hmm.
secret was exposed. But
Hmm.
I've yet to find out what that karma is. Like what's going on? Is he stepping down? Is that what the karma is? Is he being charged with something? You know what I mean? Like
That's a good
I
point.
don't get the comments, right? I
Yeah.
don't understand what the crime is here in terms of
Uh,
what are we so crazy going crazy about?
I think we live in a climate right now where any kind of bad behavior behind the scenes is immediately like grounds for like cancel culture. And
Mhm.
this is not, but and I'm not even saying like cancel culture is kind of fading as people kind of push back on it. And obviously people get canceled for things that are atrocious and they should be canceled for in some cases. But I think now we just live in that climate where it's like, oh, there's a revealing article about somebody being mean or something like somewhat like socially unacceptable behavior. And this is very light in terms of the socially unacceptable behavior that people get canceled for. So I don't think it's a reason to cancel somebody. I think that then it creates this aura of like, oh, it's a big scandal. Damn, you got. You know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
think that
Mhm.
that's kind of what those comments are like. Yeah, that's right, Roham. You got fucking got because everybody thought you were awesome. And I think maybe less so like, listen, in our community, Phil D, nothing here is surprising, right? We're all like, people are like, okay, Roham is maybe he's mean to his employees sometimes. Okay. Like, I don't think anybody's like, fuck, I really thought he was the nicest dude in the world. And the other part where it's like he has a lavish lifestyle, it's like, well, we all saw the Diplo video last year where Diplo's getting onto a yacht to play a DJ set and the security won't let him on. And then Roham comes and lets him on. And Diplo is like, thank God the owner of the yacht let me on. That part's actually referenced in the Block article as well. But I don't think any of us are surprised, or even Phil. You followed Genie's pretty closely. You did a bit of work with them. Do you remember when what's the CEO of Genie's, Akash, when he posted
Akash.
Akash, he
Uh-huh.
posted a photo of like from a private jet with him and Roham like eating food or something like that. So
No,
it's
it
like
was
clearly we
Roham
knew.
stuffing his face with watermelon in the background on
Yeah.
a private jet, leaving NFT NYC or something like that.
No, it
Right?
was.
That's
Oh
what it
yeah,
was.
was it that? Yeah, it was after
It was the
the fuck, what's the name? Q-Tip. No, what's the Migos
very
guy?
first NFT NYC event, right? And they
Yeah,
were leaving New York
the
on the same
concert.
private jet. We don't know whose it was though, because Akash actually flies on
He
private
was in
jets
there.
all the time as well, right? He
Yeah,
he
yeah.
he
Well, they
shows that
listen.
lifestyle all over
Akash has
Instagram as well.
88. Akash raised $88 million for Genies, man. He's got to spend it somewhere. It's definitely not in shipping any product whatsoever. So he's got to spend that money on something.
Here's the other thing,
But
actually,
anyways, what
LG
I'm saying is that
is
nothing is revealing. So, but I think that at the higher level of a publication like the Block, so that's outside of Top Shot Discords and First Mint Discords and Top Shot Twitter, any of that kind of stuff. At a higher level, I think people are like, "That's right, secrets out." Roham is mean, like I think, and he spends irresponsibly. Now, right? Like I think that that's kind of the aura that at least the negative side of this is taking. That it's like, that's right, we got him. We finally fucking got him. Thing is, Phil D, you know who controls the board of privately owned Dapper? Roham and his brother and their friend from college. Like, there's
there you
no
go.
like they control most of the decision making there. So there's no like because one of my questions today is like, okay, is this for Roham? Is he going to take a leave of absence, step down? And I really, really don't think so because A, no one's going to force him to, and B, maybe he'll be nicer and maybe he won't post about flying on private jets and shit all the time, or he'll do that a little less. But otherwise, I think, and I think most people involved at the absolute highest level of Dapper, including the investors, including Roham, I think everybody thinks that Roham is doing a really good job, honestly. And obviously the community doesn't think that, but I think from a tech standpoint, that's like, it's a bear market. We were one of the biggest initiators of this whole craze, and we've got all these amazing partnerships like Ticketmaster and all these other huge ass brands in the works. It's like you zoom out, and I think a lot of people, including the investors, think that Roham is doing a great job. So I don't think that this is, he didn't murder anybody, right? Like you're saying, there's no huge reveal. So I don't know if this really changes anything in terms of Roham's status in the company, in case there's a question anybody was wondering.
Yeah, and the other thing is if I don't know how these companies, Web3 companies work, LG, maybe you can touch a bit more on this, but would a company like Dapper Labs have an HR department?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They have an
Okay.
HR department.
So
Yeah.
if anything inappropriate was going on, you would think that employees would be, and I'm not saying, listen, I'm not saying any of this is not true. I don't know. Okay. We'll probably never know. Like I said, for me, I'm a big receipts guy. If you're going to make accusations of being mistreated, yes, it may have been in person, but let's be honest. Dapper Labs has been established when the pandemic started. And I guarantee you that 99% of interactions were, like you said, on Zoom calls, most likely recorded. And if this was a persistent type of behavior from Roham, you would think the people who were impacted by it would have recorded Zoom sessions, would have kept receipts and all that stuff, and would be now posting them to validate it, right? But first and foremost, for me, if you have an issue in a place of work where you're being mistreated, you're being talked down to, you're being treated like garbage by the, it doesn't matter who it is, the owner, the CEO, you would definitely at some point go to the HR department, okay? And that would be the right step to take as a first step. And then you'd always be able to say, listen, I was mistreated. I was treated like a piece of shit. I was talked down to. I was stepped on while I was there. I went to HR and HR did nothing about it. To me, if that was said and that wasn't refuted by anybody, I'd be like, now that's a valid point. Now I'm starting to believe this because you know what? It's possible. An HR department, depending on who's employed in that HR department, might not do anything, right? If you said it's Roham and his brother and all that, and maybe they run the HR department, I don't know, then I would understand. But it doesn't seem like any of that was done. I just have a hard time kind of convicting Roham and in this case when it's former employees that are coming out that were laid off that are coming out and kind of just posting memes or gifs of and saying things like karma's a bitch, right? Like for me, it's you need more than that. So as much as a lot of people out there have been waiting to bury Roham with anything, I don't see anything too incriminating here. And actually, I never see him kind of showing off that lifestyle. I don't see it. Like we saw it a couple times with that
Do you
Diplo.
follow him on Instagram? Do you follow him on Instagram?
No, I don't. That's the thing. So maybe I don't see it like that. But I'm just
I
saying,
do.
in general, is it really bad? Does he always post?
No, it's not. It's not as bad as it's honestly he mainly just shares Instagram stories from like NFL All Day and Top Shot for like new releases. And then otherwise, usually when there's like a big sports event like NBA All-Star or Super Bowl, he will post stories from like the third row or from like a private box. Which I wouldn't consider that extravagant. Like that's not flying on a private jet. That is more like, no, I'd say if you're the CEO of a company like Dapper or So Rare or DraftKings or whatever else, it's like you should be sitting pretty damn close at those events. Like that is where you should be. That's kind of your job, right? So I don't, that part to me is totally fine. I don't see anything too crazy on Instagram from Roham.
But to be fair, we might hear more now. You might have more people coming out. But for me, the big kind of decider here will be if current Dapper Labs employees, the ones who are still there, come out and make statements refuting all of this and saying, you know what, I've been an employee of Dapper Labs and I've worked for Roham for 2 or 3 years or a year or months, whatever it is, and I saw absolutely none of this. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen or that they weren't able to see it. But if they come out and say this, it means that they are happy working for Roham, that it doesn't happen to them. And that there's maybe not too much to it there. Like I don't know. This article for me is like when you sent me that headline today, and I saw just kind of the little what is it called, the little thumbnail of it, and then the little title. I'm like, man, I need to set aside an hour to read this because I'm going to be reading like the scandal of the century. When I got your Coles notes on it, I'm reading. I'm like, okay, yep, flies private jets, spend all the money on like attending events. I'm like, okay, was mean to other employees. All right, well, man, I don't know. That's a little disappointing. I'm not going to lie, right? It's not the big scam. But hey, hold on. Is he holding an AMA on Friday? Is that still happening?
He is.
I thought
yes.
I saw that somewhere.
Yes. So the perfect timing, Friday afternoon, or actually there's no time announced yet. So maybe Friday morning, he's supposed to do an AMA in the Dapper Labs Discord, not the Top Shot Discord, in the Dapper Discord, probably to give some kind of State of the Union. I mean, it's an AMA, like people aren't going to be asking questions live in the chat. They are asking people to email in advance with questions. So those questions will be handpicked clearly. But I think there's, I would say that this is actually a great opportunity for Roham, especially with some of the other voices that we hear often in AMAs, like Dave now being gone. If Roham wants to keep some credibility and some trust and restore that, in any kind of way, I think this AMA is the opportunity. I think the way to do that is to take some of the hard questions. Obviously, don't take the really psycho questions or like, fuck you, Roham, why are you such a fuck up? Like, people are obviously going to submit that kind of crap.
Yeah, you're gonna have a
But
ton of those.
I think if he can address, like, I think one of the most important parts that they haven't done, we talked about this on Monday Field D, is that it's just like, I think I want someone there to acknowledge that things aren't great, right? That it's like users are low, right? None of their products have more than 5,000 like weekly buyers or whatever it is, like pretty low for tech standards. That sentiment is down, that there's a lot of bad press, like lawsuits and private jets and all that kind of shit. I just want them to acknowledge that and be like, listen, things aren't great right now. We're going to work against that. And we're working for you guys, the collectors, to make this really great. And even if they don't know what the fuck they're going to do, even if they have no idea how they're ever going to market Top Shot, to at least say, like, we're not really sure how to do this, but we're going to keep trying new things until we figure it out, like going to trade shows, which they've been doing, like cardboard trade shows. If they can just come out and say that, I think that wins a lot of points, rather than some of the style they've used recently, which is kind of gaslighting people, being like, who's ready for another amazing NBA Top Shot pack drop? Like, no, but everything here is great. Like, it's just a strange, like, attitude, kind of arrogance that I don't like in the communication style right now. That I think this is a good opportunity to like come down to earth and restore a bit of confidence there in the end.
Now, I want to ask you one more thing, LG, is
yeah.
Now, we recently touched on this, the mayor of Toronto, John Tory, and his big scandal where he actually resigned, but he only resigned because the Toronto Star notified him the night before that there was going to be an article detailing the affair he was having with someone other than his wife. And they gave him the opportunity to kind of just address it on his own first. Okay. Do you think that the person who wrote this article reached out to Roham with details of the article before Roham came out and decided to hold an AMA on Friday?
Like, do you think that was on purpose, kind of thing?
Do you
Like,
think that prompted that to kind of say, hey, hold on a second here. Before everyone comes for me, you guys know now that I'm speaking on Friday, and I don't know if he's going to address it or not. I do think he needs to address everything in one shot, like you said. And do you think that maybe he was given the opportunity, like most good journalists do this? Okay, they do reach out to those parties ahead of time.
Yeah, a little bit in
notify
advance.
them, or to get a statement or whatever. But they kind of reach out to them and tell them what's up and give them a chance. I just find the timing weird that I don't know where the AMA was announced. Was it in a blog post? Because I couldn't find
it was like yesterday or Monday or something like that. They just said join Roham Friday for an AMA. That's a good point, actually, because if you knew that article was coming, you wouldn't want to make it look like you're holding an AMA as a reaction to the article, right?
That's
like,
what
you
I
don't
mean.
want to be like, oh shit, bad press, we're doing an AMA to everybody. If anything, you want to make it seem like you were going to do an AMA anyways. Oh, bad article came out. Well, good thing I'm already a good CEO who's communicating with my community, and I already have an AMA plan this week. You know, like, I think that's actually a really smart point, is that I think that, you know, maybe whenever they plan the AMA is when they might have found out about this upcoming article.
It's just so much of a coincidence that this came out right after we heard about the AMA, because we've been asking for this AMA for a long time. Before, you know, they kind of played themselves out when they used to do a bunch of them before, but now with all that's been going on, we've been asking for this. With the lawsuit, we were asking for it, right? Like, somebody come out and say something. Yeah, and we don't want just anybody. We want Roham to finally address the nation and speak, right? And then I heard last night, I think, or early this morning, that was happening. And then all of a sudden the article comes out, and I couldn't help but, you know, relate back to the Toronto incident, where that's the only reason John Tory came out and resigned, is because he got, you know, he took a step ahead. He was given the courtesy of being advised. He got caught, right? So, but it's not the same with Roham, because I still don't know what he got caught doing, right? Like I said before. So this will be interesting to see, LG. I'm really interested to see what happens the next couple of days. I'm sure we might hear from more employees. Jayne, I'm gonna have to turn on notifications for her, because I get a good kick out of her chaos and all that stuff. Like, you know, Jayne, we didn't hear from Jayne in forever. Okay. And everybody kind of left it alone because she was going through something. And then the first time we hear from her now is taking shots at Roham. Not even a statement that she's officially gone. Right, like, we didn't even know what was going on for the longest time.
Honestly,
man. Right?
That's such a bad look on her end, man. Like, listen, I
just don't like.
I think we've all been in situations where we've had to leave jobs. Like, Phil, you know, the other day on the podcast, you were talking about how, you know, you've been in the same job for 12 years, where everybody knows that I haven't, and I've had a lot of different jobs, a lot of different positions, executive positions, and everything. And I have worked for some absolute fucking trolls, like absolutely terrible weirdo people who I would, like, you know, I've had a few, maybe one or two, like, bad exits where, you know, I had a huge disagreement with the CEO, reporting directly to them at different companies I've worked at. And I'll tell you that, like, I've been so mad. I've gone out for beers with other colleagues and just totally fumed and been just so fucking pissed off. But never, ever, ever in my life would I imagine writing about it in a pretend passive aggressive way on Twitter or LinkedIn or anything like that. Like, never, no matter how bad it got, would I ever sink to that level of unprofessionalism. And I think that that is just like, first of all, I think that that's like stupid because it's fucking career suicide. That it's like, if things don't go the way for you at your job that honestly, Jenny, you fucking sucked at. Doesn't matter if Roham's a bad boss or not. You were terrible at that job. Like that is a good way to make sure that no one who's been following that will ever fucking hire you. Or want to work with you. So I think it's a good way to kind of put more nails in your own coffin. But second, it's just like, how could you be that small? How could you be so small to just not be able to, like, it's in the freaking block. It's in a huge publications. Everyone's going to talk about it. How could you be so small as to, one, feel like you got to take a shot right at that moment, be like, you got. But also be so small that it's like you think you want to make the story about you because you know that tweeting that kind of shit is people are going to talk about you and how bitter you are and how you're right, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just, I just cannot stand that kind of shit, man. Like just let it go and be the bigger human, honestly. So that's my rant on the Jayne and the ex-employees stuff. Good way to make sure nobody ever hires you again. That's my thoughts.
But
there.
if it was,
Phil,
again, if it was that bad, just at least show us something. Show us something. Don't just come out with memes and shit and gifs. That's what I don't like. We don't
write something more professional. Right? Or write something more professional.
Yes,
be like, I work there, and yes, it's been incredibly hard to work for Roham. I've been disappointed I couldn't get more done. And yes, like some of the stuff in here is true. Roham is hard to work for, and I hope he turns that around. Write something like a little bit more cohesive instead of like you're a fucking 9-year-old, man. Like, come on. So not happy with that. Phil, we should wrap up because I know you got to run, but I have some comments from the community I'm going to read out to you real quick before we wrap out. Okay.
That's my favorite part.
Yes. So I asked on Twitter right before we started recording for some comments. So I'm going to get to those in a minute, but first I went into the Top Shot Discord earlier and I just searched the word Roham. So I've got some of my favorite comments from that. Okay. So these are the good comments, from the Discord. I'm not mad at Roham. He's made a lot of money and likes to spend it. So a little bit on your point, Phil. I heard Roham was throwing little people like darts, like in Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay.
Now we know why they minted 120,000 Bruce Browns in Series 3, so Roham could stay in the White House to impress Diplo.
No, the funny thing is that half of those are in his personal account right now.
That's true.
You remember when everybody was sending them to Roham?
Yes, that's right. I forgot about. Roham is a huge bag of Top Shot stuff that we will never know what happens to it. Some more serious ones. So I asked on Twitter right before we started recording for people to give us their hot take, which I think we're going to do that a little bit more on the podcast, kind of tweet a little bit before we record and ask you guys for a hot take on the topic of the day. So from Pharmaziz, a mod scientist, Dapper bit off more than they could chew too early. The personal and internal growth was too rushed and key steps were missed. Confidence may be difficult, if not impossible to regain, but I still love these damn sports highlight moms. Send help. So some people unable to quit.
I just want to say, hold on. I want to say a lot of people feel that way. And that's why a lot of people are still around. I mean, we bitch, we complain, and we cry about a lot of stuff, but we still kind of collect in our own way that we like. And we kind of try and look past those things, right? Can't be happy with everything. But yeah, that's a valid point.
The product is awesome. The product is still awesome at the end of the day. From the Rage, huge, which is at Huge Ego Sorry 1. Roham comes out and apologizes and will burn one moment for every Dapper dollar he spent, which would work incredibly well. That would be awesome. Let's make that happen. That's the punishment. He has to burn his entire account. From Nectar Wines. Who cares? He is spending investor money. It's not like my LeBron James debut is down because Rohan throws parties.
He's right.
Rohan.
I mean,
yeah.
Rohan. Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah. From from not Top Shot economists, and there's a few Twitter accounts like this that are fake Top Shot economists of some kind. So this is one of them. Jayne was responsible for running Top Shot. She failed miserably, regardless of what Roham was doing. Only way she doesn't get the blame is she was constantly overruled and her decisions nixed by Roham. She was person in charge when Top Shot became a dumpster fire. The end, in capitals. From Mr. X. In the investor newsletter, Roham mentioned announcements in the upcoming days. I don't know what the recent announcements were. I don't know that the recent announcements were the end of this. Hot take, we're still in the infancy stages of whatever Dapper's final form will be. Okay, that's good. And from Alternative Bob, owner of multi-billion-dollar company flies private. How is that shocking? Do you all think that Zuckerberg flies Southwest?
It's true, though. That part is true. That part's true, man. It's true.
Okay, last one. And this is from Sam J015 in the First Mint Discord. Probably not spicy, but is the report concerning? Sure. Don't enjoy hearing negativity in workplace. Does it get less merit when multiple former and disgruntled employees victory lapping on Twitter? Yes. Seems like they want to flame their former employer on the way out. Bad look for them. Also, IMO. Ultimately, does my opinion about Roham's character or behavior affect my willingness to own Anthony Edwards Dunk and enjoy the Timberwolves tickets and highlights? No.
That's
Sam J goes
one.
to a lot of games through the Timberwolves group.
That's a good
I
one.
will say. Yeah, that's a good one. That's the last
No,
one
I
I got.
agree with all of that. That last point, that was my main issue, is that this, all these things were being said by employees that had just been canned for various reasons, or for just reasons that, there's the money's kind of running out now, and it's not what it used to be, and we're not where we were 2 years ago, right? So, like I was more than willing to come on here today, LG, and discuss the scandal and absolutely trash Roham if we had to, right? For whatever it was. But again, for me, there's just not that much substance there. There's nothing sort of illegal happening. There's no, listen, I have my fair share of corruption theories for some of the things that have happened the last couple of years. But I never actually blame Roham for that. That's why I always ask who's in charge at Top Shot. Like, who's responsible for these massive mistakes that keep being made at Top Shot? I don't think it's Roham, right? At a higher scale, it is Roham because he's in charge of everybody, right? But at the end of the day, I still don't see the big scandal here. And I hope we hear more. I hope this kind of sets off a train reaction of not stories from former employees, but maybe some positive stories that come out, some refuting stories, or maybe we're only going to hear more bad stuff. I don't know. There's a lot of former Dapper Labs employees, and if this was a true issue, we're definitely going to hear about it. It's not just going to be two people talking shit on Twitter. That's what I'm saying. And I think we'll hear more about this. And then Friday is a big day, right? We'll see. I think it's extremely important for Top Shot, for Roham, as the CEO of Dapper Labs, to come out and, like you said, own up to a lot of the stuff that's been going on lately, and
just
kind of
acknowledge
put it out there.
Just acknowledge
100%. Absolutely.
Nobody's perfect. Nobody
That's
expects
right.
you to be perfect, especially not at navigating a huge NFT company. Nobody's ever done that job before. So you don't have to save face. Like I just hate corporate talk in NFTs. I think it's so stupid. It's like, listen, man, this is community shit. Like, people want real stuff, right? Like, you have such an opportunity to be down to earth. So why waste it? Even if you do, like, listen, I even said earlier, Phil, that I was like, you know what? You can make a case that that Roham will win more fans by saying that, like, showing that he's a big fucking baller. There's a lot of people out there that think that shit's cool. That they're like, yeah, like, I want to buy product from a dude who's fucking balling. Like, why don't you make a VIP experience where you get to go on the jet with Roham to fly to the Super Bowl? Like, why not, right? Like, why not have a bit of that?
Not
so
bother me for 1 second. We're the idiots
like,
that
that's
have been
what I
buying
mean,
those
right?
packs,
It's not just
right? We've been buying these packs, man. We're the ones spending the money. Nobody is forcing us to spend the money we've been spending on Dapper. Okay, I've chosen not to spend money sometimes, but there are still people who continuously buy these packs. So when you tell me a CEO is living a lavish lifestyle, that makes me laugh. It really does. If you take issue with a CEO, they're not stealing money from us. You're choosing to spend that money. There's nobody saying, if you don't buy this pack, your Top Shot account is gone. See ya. Right? Nope. Your Top Shot account will still be there. Even if you don't ever buy another pack in your life, your Top Shot account will still be there. So why are people crying about this? That part bothers me. The only concern I ever had with this whole thing that came out today was the workplace misbehavior or the workplace kind of abuse. So people are saying, but I need more information. There's nothing out there except 2 people or whoever contributed to that article, which I'm now starting to assume it's the people who were kind of putting memes out there today or posting gifs. Maybe has something to do with this, right? Seriously, like it has to be.
Feels that
It has
way.
to be the same
It feels
people.
that way.
But yeah, so until we get more, I can't really incriminate him for anything at this point, right? So really stoked for Friday though. Friday's a big day, man.
It's a big day, and I think you made a good point of like, now do current employees come out and defend Roham? Do other ex-employees come out and defend him, or does it just go silent? And we've got 2 days until that AMA, and honestly, a lifetime of probably more Roham as CEO. So let's see what happens. Phil D, thanks for jumping on it on short notice, and hope everybody enjoyed this emergency session to talk about the hot news. We'll be covering the AMA on Friday live. I'll probably tweet it live from the Twitter account. I don't think we'll do an actual voice session unless some huge bombshells announced, some big announcement. I don't think that's actually coming, but unless there's something huge to talk about, we'll just cover it on Twitter and then throw it into the Saturday newsletter, which you can find thefirstmint.substack.com. If you want to subscribe to the newsletter, comes out 3 times a week. Otherwise, Phil D, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll chat with you guys later.